It's on the handout on page 7. I can't play the extract. We recorded this extract in the interaction in a prison. We recorded it by taking notes. So you haven't got a transcript here. You've got meeting notes taken by me and a colleague of mine, and then combined. So there's nothing like the richness that you get in a fully transcribed discussion. It's the bare bones, lots of stuff missing here. But it gives you a rough indication of the kind of things that they were talking about. So it's a reading group in the prison. The librarian is female. She organises the meetings, the reading group. All of the members are male. They've got the author of the book they're talking about with them. He's William Sutton. The book's runs a few Smith Square. It's a detective novel set in Victorian times in London. The meeting's held in a room on a prison wing. They're sitting around a big rectangular table, so it's a bit formal, but the librarian's brought in, she's brought in coffee and tea, biscuits and cakes, and they're handing that round. There's an attempt to create informality, despite the rather stark context of the interaction. They've been talking about characters, and in turn 24, the first turn on the PowerPoint on the handout, Speaker G refers to the librarian, who's very resourceful. She's a character in the novel who aids the detective in his work. A bit of a love interest, basically. There's then a gap, and other things get pursued for quite a while. And then on turn, I can't use my glasses now, turn 55, they come back again to the librarian, and Speaker B asks where the character of Ruth, the librarian, comes from. There's a bit of laughter around that. That's because Speaker B is the librarian herself, and thereby interest in the character provokes laughter on the part of the group members. A bit of talk about the librarian sacrificing so much, a bit of tickled me and so on. And again at 59, Speaker B comes back. I have a complaint actually, and she reads from the novel about bought a cape to cover my downy library clothes. That again provokes laughter, because she's a librarian, hence downy clothes librarian. It's jocular, and it gets laughter from the other members. She then asks if the author were making a film, who would be the heroine. Speaker A, who's the author, someone really beautiful, and so on and so on. Then 62, Speaker C talks about a trendy assistant. Why didn't she have one? And again there's laughter. Speaker C, who's a prisoner, helps in the library as part of his prison work. Therefore, trendy assistant helped in the library. It's a sort of self-referential comment, so again it gets laughter. More than librarian, I worried about from Speaker G. And then at turn 65, Speaker C comes back about confidentiality. There isn't any in libraries. That's obviously a tease of the librarian, and she caps his tease by talking about what he's been reading. So there's some verbal spats, some bit of banter going on there as part of the discussion. It's a very jocular group, lots of joking and teasing and self-deprecation and banter going on throughout the whole discussion as a way of managing interpersonal relationships in that case. They often come out of history discussion to do that, so there'll be a bit of chat about the book, chat about prison life, and in that second bit, prison life bit, they'll engage in this banter and joking. But they can also, as they do here, employ literary talk itself as a resource through which to tease, joke, construct relationships. So here they're talking about characters in the novel, but that relates back to the librarian, and the missing character relates back to Speaker C, and so on. How much time do I have left? About?
I think about 12 minutes or so.
Well, they're at I'll stop at the right time. I'll just show you very, very fast then a discussion of a different book from a knitting group who meet in a knitting shop, and they knit as they talk. And this just illustrates they don't always talk about the book. So they're talking about the Far Cry from Kensington, and they talk about class in the book. This is a representation, a schematic representation of topic development, so it isn't a transcript, of course. But the first kind of, the sort of turquoisey colour circles are chat about the book, and the sort of tan colour circles are of the kinds of chat. And the little dotted lines are linkages between different kinds of talk. So you talk about class in the book as an example of that, the relevant telephone put in rather late in life. And that gives rise to a personal example. The first town square, it was phone put in 1976. That gives rise to phone for a doctor, doctors paying house calls, 27 there. And that then someone notices a bottle on the shelf. Is it whiskey or what is it? That gets them into slow vodka, slow whiskey, slow gin. My dad used to make slow gin. Vodka jelly at a student's children's party, and a father's belief that children have parties, and then a sharp transition back into, I guess, with the whole class thing. So in this group, I know that they often have little excursions out of the literary discussion to do other kinds of talk. Doesn't mean it's irrelevant to the book discussion. Often the books can spark off a whole range of other topics, sort of anecdotes in this case, but it might be moral issues, philosophical issues. One group talked about getting into a deep discussion about the nature of love, for instance, on the basis of their group discussion. Others reported to us that they shared things they couldn't share with their family because there was a space provided in the group discussion that allowed them to go into areas they wouldn't normally go into with other friends or colleagues. So the book can provide a stimulus for a whole range of other kind of important discussion or trivial discussion or whatever. Discussion then goes way beyond the book. So just to review then and conclude, I began with an argument from Ron Carter, but there are others, that we had to look more at how creativity was received by listeners and readers and viewers. I looked at different ideas about the reader, both the ideal or the implied reader, the experimental reader, and the actual, real, habitual reader in a real context, as it were. And I focused on that particularly in the talk. I wanted to make the argument that if you're interested in creativity in literature, you've got to look at reception first of all. If you want to look at reception, you've got to look at how real people actually read books, not just people in experiments or analysts, imagined readers. What you lose by doing this is a particular focus of interest. So you can't say, I want to look at metaphor or character or foregrounding or what have you, because that just might not come up. So you take what you get and you lose the specificity of your particular interest that you get in an experiment or analysing a text. What you gain, I do think it's a gain, is a picture of reading as a highly contextualised practice. So contextualised, most obviously, and contingent particularly. So historically, so you're getting these readings here with these speakers at this moment, and they mightn't be repeated. It's a very local process. Interactionally, I mean by that, it's contingent upon the affordances of a particular mode of expression, in this case, informal talk. So you use that, and and your reading depends partly upon what you can do interactionally with informal talk. Hence you get the repetition, collaborative construction of readings. Readings don't belong to any one person here, they're constructed by the group as a whole, or by more than one speaker anyway. Produced on the hoof, not pre-planned, as there might be in a formal meeting or a seminar, say. Lots of collaboration, lots of management of face, management of relationships. And that brings me on to the last point, interpersonally contingent. In that while you're doing reading, you've got also to do other activity, as I mentioned, as I showed you before, like managing relationships, teasing, getting on with people, maybe even fighting with people, but has to be alongside and using the resources of literary discussion to achieve those interpersonal ends. And you can contrast that with the out of context readings, I guess, that you get in experimental research. We've argued in our reading group's work that if you want to look at real readers, you've got to take this kind of obsessive perspective on reading, looking at it as rooted in context, embedded in context, something that is shaped by and shapes the context in which it